I want to talk really briefly about what we saw on Tuesday night, because it was one of the most maddening Phillies games in recent memory for a very brief moment in time. And it's funny because, like, a couple days ago, we watched Jordan Romano almost attempt to implode and put the Phillies in a position where they were going to have to send Duran out to the mound. And it was a pretty ugly performance out of him, and then everybody thought he was going to get DFA'd. He did not. But I want to go back to last night, because at this point, it very much feels like everybody's starting to give their flowers to JT Realmuto. But I think on this show, we haven't exactly given the guy all of his flowers. And so I think today is a very good day for us to just take a moment and kind of recap where things were at with JT Realmuto a little bit earlier this season. And if you remember, a lot of times when we talked about players that were going to be coming up for new contracts, we pretty much would always go out of our way to mention that it's insane that Ranger Suarez isn't signed. We'd go out of our way to mention the fact that it was insane Kyle Schwarber wasn't signed. And then when you looked at JT Realmuto, there were moments where you'd have to say to yourself, all right, the season wasn't going nearly as well as I'm sure he would have wanted it to in a contract year. And it probably wasn't going as well as the Phillies would hope it would. And so there was probably a thought that, all right, at the end of the season, depending on how things go, depending on what the contract negotiations look like, if you're the Phillies, do you want to re-sign a 34-year-old catcher to a whole hell of a lot more money? And remember, it felt like his days as the best catcher in baseball were long gone. And yet, if we're being honest and if we're being fair here, he's been pretty damn good, especially over the last month and a half, 2 months. I actually want to hit you with some numbers today, because I think that hitting you with a little bit of facts to support the argument is probably a good thing. When the season started, he had 84 at-bats in the month of April. He hit 262. In May, he fell off a cliff. He had 83 at-bats, so one fewer at-bat. He hit 205. Then he rebounded in June, hitting 293. In July, he was simply on fire at the plate. In 79 at-bats, he posted a 354 average. And thus far in the month of August, he's hitting 333. Now, if you take a look at his performance over the last week or so, he's hitting 381. Last 15 days, he's hitting 375. If you want to go over the last 30 days, 307. Now, you can look at whatever hitting metric you want to look at. I tend to, at least at this point in JT Realmuto's career, I'm not as concerned with his slugging. I'm honestly not as concerned with his OPS, although that has been fantastic over the last few weeks. I look at his ability to put the ball in play, and I look at his ability to get on base, and I do look at his ability to hit for average. And the fact that his average is up after an absolutely dreadful May, where we all kind of looked at it and said, oh shit, there's nobody really in the pipeline right now that you feel great about giving that everyday job to. What are they going to do at the end of the year? He has rebounded in such a critical way. It's kind of hard to look at this as anything other than a massive win for this team. Now, I will note, last night he had one of the most clutch hits of, in recent memory as a Philly, at least. When the Phils get out to a nice lead, everything's humming along in the game last night. Christopher Sanchez gets pulled after 96 pitches, goes 6 in the third inning, gives up 2 runs. It's a nice performance, 12 strikeouts. Great game out of Christopher Sanchez. Then you hand the ball to Ryan Kerkering, and the thought is Kerkering's going to be able to get this thing done, get you through the 7th inning, and then maybe you go to a Robertson in the 8th and then a Duran in the 9th, and, game over. We're all happy-go-lucky. We're ready to go home. Everybody feel good about, what's going down. Except that's not exactly what happened, right? The Sanchez game was great. Christopher Sanchez was fantastic. Ryan Kerkering comes in, gives up 2 runs, and you're like, oh shit, now it's a tie 4-4 game. Who's going to be the one to make the impact play? And despite the fact that Realmuto's played very, very well in the last 2 months, I'm not sure that he would have been the guy that you would have thought was going to flip the game on its head, and yet he was. And Realmuto goes out, crushes a 2-run home run, gives you a 6-4 lead. But the JT Realmuto home run, going back to it, was a beautiful microcosm of this resurgence that he's had since a woeful month of May. And you have to feel really good for JT Realmuto on a few levels. One, on a human level, you have to feel good for the guy that where it seemed like things had really fallen off a cliff, he's kind of back to being the guy that we expect him to be. While the power numbers have been what they've been, they're not like insane. He didn't have a home run in the month of June. He had 2 in July. He has 2 so far in August. It's a clutch hit. It is a powerful moment for this team and for a club that is still, I think, trying to figure out a way to balance this horrible news about Zach Wheeler missing time, perhaps missing the season. We found out on Monday's show, we got the breaking news that Wheeler had gone through a procedure to break up the clot. The veterans on this team are probably still trying to figure out a way to kind of balance that idea of we're kind of keeping it business as usual, and at the same time, you're kind of using the Wheeler blood clot and recovery as kind of like a galvanizing thing, as a rallying cry for the team, like let's win it for Wheels. It's cool to see guys like Realmuto getting to step up. I mean, listen, Kyle Schwarber has had a million accolades this season, and there are certainly, he's making a case to be considered strongly for NL MVP. We all know about Bryce Harper. We all know about the love that this fan base has for Bryce Harper. Trey Turner's had a weird season. I think the entire Trey Turner tenure here, unless things drastically change, will always kind of go down as one of those, oh, that didn't go exactly how we wanted it to. Nick Castellanos right now is in the midst of kind of becoming a platoon player because the results just haven't been there. It's cool to see a guy like Realmuto get something going in a positive direction, and here he is in a career or in a contract year, and you have to start wondering, if you're the Phillies, how much has his production over the last 2 months impacted what you're willing to give him, but maybe even more importantly, what he thinks he is worth and what he's willing to take. You know, if there was a scenario here where the Phillies could get a JT Realmuto who was playing at like, I don't know, 60% of what you expect him to be, could they have found a path to bringing him back on a 2, maybe 3-year contract at a lower number? Does his play over the last couple of months change that now, where he believes he's worth $20, $25 million a year because he still plays a premium position at catcher? I think, if you're the Phillies or any other team, you're probably looking at a scenario where Realmuto is going to have to change positions at some point in the next 2 years, you would think, or maybe he's going to like play half his games a catcher, half as a DH, or half a catcher, half at first base. Then you have this weird thing, right, with Schwarber where he's your DH, and Harper might have to go back to the outfield. Harper said that he's willing to go to the outfield if they get the right guy at first base. Well, what if Realmuto has to move to first base because, you know, catchers have a certain shelf life before their knees give out, before they start having a lot of legitimate issues? Would Harper move to the outfield so that Realmuto could play first? But then that means who's going to play catcher? And who do they have in the farm system to play catcher? A lot of things that we have to figure out, but the positive is you don't have to figure them out right now.